I'm delighted to welcome today Kirsten Chick, who is a nutritional therapist, author, and what was the other thing, Kirsten?
Lecturer.
Lecturer. Very, very fancy. Marvellous. Okay, well, welcome to the Perfect Health podcast.
Thanks.
And, it's a delight to meet you because I've heard so much about you from various different quarters, and it's nice to put a face and a voice to the image that I've had about you, you know, and you meet up to everything and excel it, so that's lovely.
Brilliant, thanks.
Okay,
Lovely to meet you too at last, Elaine. Thanks for this.
Thank you. So you're based in Brighton in the UK, and is that where you're from, or is that where you happen to be living at the moment?
No, I'm originally an Essex girl, but I came down here to study languages originally about, well, over 30 years ago now. And I just fell in love with the place. So I've been abroad and come back again a few times, but Brighton's my home. I'm just outside of Brighton now in Portslade, but it's still, I love being by the coast.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? I know the area down there is beautiful. Yeah, it's really, really nice. And I remember coming to a conference down there and meeting Dr. Young-Snell, who you work with. We'll probably touch on his clinic a bit later on. Yeah, we met at a thing that we both spoke at, and various other people that I came to that particular conference, and we've all kept in contact, which is lovely. But you were unavailable that day, as I remember.
Yeah, that was one of the Yes to Life conferences.
That's right.
I've done a couple of other ones of theirs, and I'm going to be an expert host speaker at their online conference in September. So I really love supporting their work. Robin does some
wonderful.
Really stuff.
Yeah, absolutely great. I was for 2 years. I was a volunteer on the helpline and taking calls from people newly diagnosed with cancer or wanting, a bit of extra information or support. Mm-hmm. So how did you get into being a nutritionist? It's not the sort of thing children go, oh, I'd like to be a nutritionist.
Yeah.
How did you get into it, Kirsten?
Well, it's interesting because I'd actually spent my life being quite envious of people who knew what they wanted to do. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I kind of drifted through life a little bit, just fell into jobs that happened to be there, that I happened to be good at, and I learned lots from them. A lot of the work I was doing was in the entertainment industry, the music industry, and then I got ill. I got cancer. And this was my late 20s. It really was a huge shock. And it took a little while for me to recover. A good couple of years, I'd say, well, nearly a year physically, but a good couple of years mentally and emotionally and psychologically. But during that process of recovery, the one thing that I was drawn to was nutrition. And that was the one thing that I was doing lots of other self-care practices, so lots of yoga, tai chi, qigong, and various other things, but the nutrition was really tugging at me. And one day I woke up and I got this sense of, I know what I want to do. I want to be a nutritional therapist. And it was just such a joy because that was what I'd wanted to feel all my life. I wanted to feel that I knew what I wanted to do, and there it was. So I trained, I graduated, I got going. I very quickly, well, I was a tutor at the college where I trained, and then a lecturer for a few years, and since then I've lectured in various colleges and run courses and workshops alongside having one-to-one consultations. So that seeing people one-to-one has always been the mainstay of my work. But since 2003 now, I've been a nutritional therapist, and I'd say since 2007, maybe full-time, completely full-time. So yeah, that was what brought me to nutrition, and it's been brilliant, really. I can't imagine enjoying anything more. It's really varied, it's fascinating, as I'm sure you know from the work that you do, it's a bit like being a detective. Every day I'm trying to figure things out. I'm researching continually, learning new things every day. So it's just wonderful. And now obviously I've got the book out as well, and that was a massive research project because I wanted to make sure that everything I wrote was completely up to date. So more learning, more researching. Yeah, it's my favourite thing. Love it.
And you light up when you speak about it, which is fabulous. It's always nice when we've got the good connection to do a video call rather than an audio podcast, because you can actually feel the energy coming out just by, you know, your face lighting up as you're talking. So you mentioned cancer. Were you aware of the importance of nutrition when you had cancer, or did you learn that through your journey?
I was kind of aware. I had a friend who'd trained in nutrition, and we'd had lots of conversations about it. So it was on my horizon, I suppose, but I wasn't living it at all. I was up at Guy's Hospital for 3 weeks, and during that time, a friend bought me a massive box of goodies from Infinity Foods, which is a really long-running health food shop cooperative in Brighton. And I remember having conversations with the chef. I was, quite out of it on various drugs most of the time, but I remember having conversations with the chef about how I wasn't impressed with any of the food that they were giving me, and I needed better nutrition. And bless him, he ended up nipping into supermarkets on his way to work each morning to pick up a bag of salad for me. So it was, and I had another friend in London who was bringing me in home cooked meals. So it was something that even when I wasn't really able to think about much else, it was something that was there supporting me. So I was really grateful for that. So it had kind of been hovering around, but it definitely landed when I was ill. Yeah.
And what cancer was it, Kirsten?
It was sarcoma in the muscle in my inner upper thigh. So it was really rare. Soft tissue sarcomas are very rare anyway. I was incredibly lucky. They caught it, well, I caught it really early. I'm not going to say they caught it, because actually I was sent away several times and told not to worry or come back later. But it was a pretty huge lump by the time it got diagnosed. It took quite a long time to diagnose it because nobody in Sussex really recognised it. So it was only once they found somebody in London that actually realised what it was. And it was pretty big, but it was very encapsulated. And actually, when they took it out, there were just a few cancerous cells in the middle, and the blood supply making a really pretty spiral pattern in the lump, and the rest of it was just encapsulation. So I had they didn't even offer me radiotherapy or chemotherapy. I had the lump removed, but that was a big trauma for my body and for me. And also I needed about 2 or 3 surgeries because it kept going wrong. And they ended up with a very long recovery time. So it was, in many ways, I was incredibly lucky. In many ways, it was quite traumatic. But in all ways, it was a massive wake-up call. And I'm really grateful for that. Still really grateful.
What year was that, Kirsten? What year was it that this happened? When you
I'm a bit hazy on it. I think it must have been about 98, 97. I think maybe 98, towards the end of 98.
Okay, well, it's a bit of a shock, really. I'm not quite sure how I feel after hearing that, because my dad died with exactly that in 1976.
Oh goodness, so sorry to hear that.
And did you do any sports? Did you have any kind of constant bashing on your thigh?
I had been cycling a lot. I'd been dancing a lot, but no, not really. No, not very sporty.
we're not here to talk about me and my family, but obviously it's relevant with what you've just said. My dad was a police inspector and in the Metropolitan Police, and he was a huge sportsman and coach, player as well. And he played #1 batsman in the Metropolitan Police, one of the Metropolitan Police cricket teams. So he was regularly getting 100, scoring 100 runs. And obviously he didn't hit, every time he hit the bat. So the constant bashing on his left thigh where he was, going to the crease. And in those days, there was no protection. There was no thigh pads or anything like that. And he had surgery, and the lump grew so big when he had surgery. It was really weird because I was at work the day. I just knew roughly the time. I knew Dad was going down for surgery in the morning, and I was sitting at my job, and I had the most enormous pain on my thigh, and it was exactly the time that they cut in. And apparently the pressure was so large, the whole thing shot up and hit the roof of the operating theatre.
Oh my goodness!
Yes,
wow.
Yeah. So, and it was quite some time, but before, as you say, people didn't recognise it. So if they didn't recognise it in 1998, imagine 1976. Well, he died in 76. So and we nursed him at home because it went everywhere, and it was not good. So that was my first touch with cancer. And in those days, nobody had cancer.
Nobody spoke about it. It was
a whisper. Yeah, absolutely. So moving on then, and also I'm an Essex girl, so I was.
Whereabouts in Essex are you from?
Well, I was born in Chesterfield. My dad was Northern. I'm a Derbyshire lass and an Essex lad. I was born in Derbyshire but brought up in Essex, in Chingford.
Oh wow, okay, not far from me then. So I was born in Colchester but brought up in Hornchurch.
Right, yes, around the corner, up the road. Yeah. Wonderful. Small world, isn't it?
Very small world. Yeah.
Okay, so what happened when you made your recovery and you had an interest in nutrition? So what studying? Talk us through the studying that you did and the training. How did that frame and kind of mould what you're now doing today?
Yeah, well, I suppose my studying started a little bit before my training. My partner at the time, who's now my husband, bought me my first ever nutrition book, which was Healing with Whole Foods by Paul Pitchford, which is still a wonderful book. And what I really loved about that was he talked about the Chinese 5 elements and the Oriental way of looking at things, which really tied in with the Tai Chi and Qigong that I was doing. I then went to train with Barbara Wren at the College of Natural Nutrition, and she also talked a lot about the 5 elements and the traditional Chinese medicine. So that really reflected well there. And since then, I've just never stopped studying and researching, really. That's kind of opened up the way in terms of, obviously Barbara's approach has been a huge influence, but also other teachers of other things as well have led me to have this really kind of grounded approach, I think, and mindful approach to things, so that I'm not just purely looking at the nutrients, not just purely looking at what's going, what might be missing, or what, the nuts and bolts of it, but looking at the whole person, looking at each person as an individual, really getting a sense of what that person needs to nourish them, not just to make up for certain nutrient deficiencies. But also many of the people that I have worked with and been inspired by have really taught me to be gentle with my approach as well. So there seem to be various different approaches in nutrition. So some people will just think, well, let's just throw everything at it. So if somebody's got a diagnosis, whether it's cancer or something else, you just find all the different nutrients that have been discovered, all the different supplements, all the different dietary approaches, all the different treatments and medications, and just do everything. Whereas, you know, and that can be really helpful for some people, but my approach and training has been more along the lines of, okay, we'll just back off a little bit and just gently put in the things that are going to gently guide people towards where they need to be. My favourite, I quote him a lot, my favourite quote for this is a Japanese teacher called Kishi, who taught something called Seiki Soho. And he used to talk about how if you hit something on the head with a hammer, it will recoil. But if you whisper, it will lean forward to listen. Mm. So that's the approach that I really like, is the whispering approach.
That's a really good analogy, actually, isn't it? Because you could imagine hitting something with a hammer and it exploding, and then gradually. And lots of people I speak to, as you rightly said, they throw everything at it, not knowing what's working, and then they end up being skint. As happened in my case, because I had to cash my pension in, the whole bit. So I have the greatest asset anybody could have now, as you do, our health and our happiness. So now I don't have all the trappings anymore that I used to have, but I'm a lot freer, happier, settled, content, and I know who I am, you know, and that sort of thing. And because you were talking about the whole person, so is there anything that you do, or do you collaborate with other people to help with the mind-body stuff? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So when people come to see me through the clinic, so I work with Dr. Andre Young-Snell at the Vision of Hope Clinic, but I also have my own practice. But at the clinic, we're a trio there now. So there's Dr. Andre, and there's also Maria Sardina, who is a really wonderful counsellor and hypnotherapist, and she has a very similar approach. And she's just hugely nourishing. And in the past as well, we've also worked with another wonderful woman called Carrie Harris. So we've always had people on the team that we can refer people to, and we encourage people that come to the clinic to see all three of us. They see Dr. Andre, they see me, they see Maria, for a really well-rounded sense of support and nourishment, and just so that we can keep an eye on them as well moving forwards and make sure that they're getting everything that they need. When people come to see me outside of the clinic, I still often refer people to either somebody like Maria, or make sure that they're seeing somebody usually near where they live, because I don't just see people in Brighton, I see people from all over the country, abroad as well. So I do have that conversation and make sure that there's that support in place. Also, Dr. Andre and I are really good at having conversations with people about what people's own support networks are like. Have they got a really good team around them? Are their friends and family being supportive? There's all sorts of research from places like the Radical Remission Project, and also from some surveys that Dr. Andre's done about people that have come to the clinic as well, finding that the people that you surround yourself with are so important. If you're finding that you're the person, you know, if you are trying to get well and you're finding that you're having to support your friends and family through this, then that's just a real strain on your resources. Whereas if you've got friends and family that are nourishing and supporting you, then that often leads to a better outcome for people. So we have those conversations and we make sure people have got what they need in place.
Excellent. And with the three of you at the clinic, you can also talk amongst one another, obviously, because you can then maybe one of you will spot something that another hasn't, or verse, you know, and you get a really good result, a team result for that client. Yeah, excellent. Very good. I've created something similar on my own. I've created the Perfect 10 Wellness health check, because, as you say, the people that you surround yourself with, the environment that you surround yourself with. So many people are going to work in a place that they detest, that's not conducive to good health, with people they don't like, and it's, oh, we've got to pay the bills. And people end up on this hamster wheel, don't they? And
Yeah.
realizing that they actually are making a choice. It's their choice to do that. We all have choices, and you can, if you just kind of gradually step off the hamster wheel, or just take yourself out of it and look in to see what your life is like. Many people live a toxic life, don't they?
They do, and actually that's one of the biggest contributors, in my opinion, to ill health is stress and environment. So I do talk a lot about stress, not just the usual stresses we think of, like work and relationships and so on, but also the stress of pushing yourself too hard, of being in unnatural environments a lot, being away from natural light and all the clues of that the natural light gives to the body about sleep patterns and stress hormone patterns and things like that, and general hormone patterns. The stress of electromagnetic interference and Wi-Fi and things like that, the stress of eating foods, obviously, that are continually creating inflammation, maybe not being digested properly. So there's lots of other niggling ongoing stresses that are around all the time, and we all need to be being proactive to counter that. So that can be thinking about what changes we make in our lives so that our lives are less stressful, but also thinking about managing the stress that we can't change. So making sure that we are spending time in nature, spending time grounding and centering, being mindful, spending time looking at nutrition and other ways that we can really help to become a bit more stress resilient in life. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And it's not rocket science, is it? And if everything you've said is just bleeding obvious, isn't it? And it's common sense, but nobody seems to join the dots, do they? Because we're not taught it.
No, and everyone's too busy. Everyone's too busy and too stressed to join the dots. And people, one thing that I realised a while ago is it's not that people don't want to take responsibility or be self-empowered, is that they don't feel that they can have the capacity to do that. There's so many people that have said to me, I can't go around reading labels on food. I just don't have the headspace for that. I just need to trust that my local supermarket is giving me good, healthy food, which, we can't trust, unfortunately. So it's a difficult situation for many people. So one of my roles is to try and help people find a way that they can nutritionally support themselves in a way that's not stressful. I don't want to add to people's stress. I want to remove it or mitigate it in some way. And that can be quite tricky to begin with. It can take a few sessions to get there sometimes, because I've just met somebody. It takes me a little while to get to know who they are and what their lifestyle's like, and what's achievable for them and feasible for them and what isn't. So sometimes it takes 2 or 3 sessions to get there, but I really want to make sure that what I'm recommending is de-stressing, not distressing people. Yeah,
that's a good thing there, de-stressing rather than distressing. That's
I only just I've never said that before, but I quite like it too. Yeah,
I'm going to pinch that. That's perfect. That's excellent. The book that you've written, so what's let's have a look at it. It's lovely. I've been stroking it. Lovely. It's always fab, isn't it, when we bring books out, and it's, we can touch it and feel it, and it's kind of brings to life what's in our head.
Yeah. And actually, it's called Nutrition Brought to Life. So this is exactly what the book's about. It's about bringing everything to life. It's I'm often told, because I do so much teaching and lecturing and workshops, and I've worked on so many retreats, and so many people have said to me, you're really great at bringing the science to life. So that's one of the reasons I've called the book Nutrition Brought to Life, because there is a lot of science in there. I do get into the nitty-gritty of it all. It's a really thorough book about nutrition, but I also wanted it to be really accessible and enjoyable to read. And from the feedback I'm getting, it is. So that's really great. So it's nutrition brought to life, because I wanted to bring the science to life for people, but also kind of, I don't want this information to just stay in the pages of the book. I want it to come out of the book and into people's lives, so they use it and find it useful and find it transformational. So there are lots of opportunities for reflection, for trying new approaches. At the end of each chapter, there's a little opportunity to think about certain things in different ways. And also links to recipes at the back of the book. So there are 50 recipes for people to try. And each chapter, so for example, then there are chapters on digestion and the immune system and hormones and the microbiome and things like that, and stress and the adrenals. And at the end of each chapter, there's suggestions of recipes at the back that are particularly relevant for that chapter. So yes, it's quite an in-depth book. It's quite a thorough book, but I wanted to bring it all to life for people and make it really relevant, and not just a book that sits on the shelf and gets referred to occasionally.
Wonderful. And how do people get hold of the book, Kirsten?
Well, it's available pretty much everywhere now. So the usual places like Waterstones and the Book Depository and Amazon. It's available. The publisher is Alchemia Publishing, so ALCHIMIA, alchemiapublishing.com is their website. And I did sign a few boxes, quite a lot of boxes for them. And I think they still have a few signed copies left. So if you order direct from the publisher, you should still be able to get one of those. And as from today or tomorrow, I think, the 26th or 27th of August, it's in the bookstores as well. So I'm a bit annoyed with myself for booking in so many consultations this week, because it means that I'm not going to have time to get to my local Waterstones to see if it's there. But it should be available in a lot of bookstores and other stores from today or tomorrow.
Will you be doing an interview or a book signing at your local Waterstones?
Oh, I don't know, actually. I should get in touch and talk to them about it. I did a virtual launch party last week, which we organised ages ago, not knowing where things would be at now. And that was really lovely, actually. I was really not sure what a virtual launch party would be like. But it meant that lots of friends and clients and also people I didn't know could come along from all over the country that might not have made a book launch in person. So it was really lovely to be able to do that, and it felt really intimate and really great to do. It was just lovely, actually. It was quite emotional. There's a link up. I wrote a blog about it, and there's a link to the recording on my website, connectwithnutrition.co.uk. So you can, if you want, you can go along and belatedly join my virtual launch party.
Okay, we'll do that, and feel free. I don't know if you're a member of my Perfect Health Wellness Club or not, but feel free to
Yes.
to put it in there, because it's something that we need to share, with as many members as possible.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, feel free to do that. So what would be your top tips then for anybody who's listening to what we've been saying? And we both come from a cancer perspective, is how we both got into the nutrition side of things. Although actually I started 20 years before my cancers, and I with a kidney condition that I was born with. It wasn't diagnosed till I was in my early 20s, and then I was put on antibiotics for 23 years. And it was when I woke up to chiropractic and nutrition, over 20 years ago now. So, but the point is, we've both come to nutrition, the value of nutrition, the importance of nutrition through our own journey. And I find that with the people that I interview, so many have come to the conclusion that they need to share and tell everybody how important nutrition is, or Tai Chi or Qigong or yoga, or whatever the thing is that has helped them. They become passionate. So it's really, really lovely that we've all got this knowledge now that we can share and collaborate with each other too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it is wonderful. And I think so, to answer your question about the key message to share with people is that there is all of this out there, but you need to find your own thing, what's going to be the thing that takes you to where you want to be, and that will be different for everybody. And it's the same with nutrition as well. Not everybody's nutritional journey is the same. I don't recommend the same diet to everybody. I don't recommend the same supplements to everybody, because everyone's completely unique. And even if they've got the same diagnosis, they've got different bodies. So it's about really finding what you need to reconnect and become whole again. In terms of nutrition, and with everything else, actually, the thing that I recommend most is whatever helps you to really center in your body, because it's from this place of being really centered that you can get a sense, really get a strong feel for what your body needs. I recommend something called 3 mindful mouthfuls that helps to do this with food. So I recommend that everybody, whenever you eat anything, whether it's a meal or a snack, before you eat, really take a few moments to just imagine yourself in a bubble of calm, really connect with the ground or the chair that you're sitting on, try and be as present as possible, present and calm as possible. And then for those first 3 mouthfuls, imagine, treat them as a mindfulness meditation. So you're thinking about the food that you're about to eat, you're looking at it, smelling it, tasting it, feeling the textures and the sensations in your mouth, and really savouring that food. And that does lots of different things. What that does is, first of all, it switches on your digestive system so that you can fully digest and absorb the nutrients and energy from that food. So that's really key there. But also, because it's a mindfulness practice, it's bringing your awareness into your body. So when you're looking at the food on your plate, your physical senses are kind of slightly outside you on the plate. But as you bring that food into your mouth and you swallow it, your awareness is following that into your body. So you bring your awareness into your body. Now that is the aim of one of the aims of all mindfulness practices, bringing your awareness into yourself. And that's been shown to help to switch your stress processes from high stress to low stress. So it changes your nervous system and your adrenals. And it also, because you're bringing your awareness to your body, it's something that helps you to be able to hear what your body's trying to say to you, which may be, actually, I don't want to eat that salad right now. I want something different. Or it may be, oh, this is exactly what I want right now. Or it may be something else. So, and the other thing that I really like about mindfulness practices, I say this a lot too, is that the word practice is important. Practice implies that we're not very good at it and we need to practice it. So if we find ourselves distracted or not being able to hear anything, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. That's just more stress. We're trying to take the stress out here. It just means we need to practice more, and we eat usually about 2, 3, 4 times a day, so that's lots of opportunities to practice. So that's my favourite piece of advice for everybody. I speak about that more. Again, I've got another blog that talks about that, and a YouTube video that talks about that too. I talk about it a lot in Nutrition Brought to Life as well. Because I think that's the thing that people can do most to help them get more nutrition from their foods, but also help get to that place where you start to figure out what your body wants on all sorts of levels.
That's really helpful and very simple.
Yeah, and if 3 mindful mouthfuls are too much, then just do 1. And it's, it doesn't work for everybody, but for most people it is really helpful. And then you can just get on with the rest of the meal and chat with your family or watch the telly or whatever it is you want to do. But for those first 1 to 3 mouthfuls, try and be really present.
Excellent guidance. What's your view, organic versus non-organic produce?
Yeah, well, if it's affordable and feasible, then organic all the way. A lot of the pesticides and other substances that you get in non-organic foods are endocrine disruptors. They're going to be really messing with hormone balance. A lot of them are estrogen mimickers. So especially if, with people that have got growths, whether they're cancers or fibroids or cysts or anything like that, estrogen mimickers are likely to feed those. So and just generally for the benefit of the planet, really, just reducing the amount of those chemicals that are going into the soil has to be a good thing. And farming organically is just much better for the environment as well as for us individually. But for people who, for whom that's not feasible or affordable, then again, don't get stressed out worrying about it. Do the best that you can. Have the broadest, most nourishing diet that you can right now. It's the same with water quality. People are always asking me about water filters. Do you get that question a lot?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah. And there, I can talk for ages about different kinds of water filters, but at the end of the day, if you just have tap water available, then be grateful that you have tap water and you're not somewhere in the world where all the water is poisoned, or you have to walk 2 days to get to some water. So we work with what we've got, and then we upgrade that where we can.
With the water, because I'm travelling at the moment, well, even wherever I am, I will always have boiled water. I'll never touch tap water unless it's literally the last thing on the planet in my environment. But even so, from tap water, I'll boil the kettle or even the saucepan if that's all there is available, and I'll drink boiled water because at least it takes some of the contaminants out, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I add sea salt in, usually sea salt or organic. What do you call it? Not organic, Himalayan pink salt or rock salt. That's the way I get around the water thing. If I'm not in a place that's got a decent filter.
Yeah.
So,
great.
There we go. There's always ways around, aren't there? Always.
There are. Yeah.
And for people who aren't able to source organic foods, fresh produce, I've heard, and I've done it a few times myself, washing in apple cider vinegar, rinsing, just filling a bowl of water and putting apple cider vinegar in, and then washing the produce, again helps to remove some of the pesticide damage.
Yeah, and it won't remove the pesticides that have gone through the skin, so it works best for things that have thicker skins, if you like, and less well for things like berries and leaves. But yes, that's still a good idea.
Cool. Okay, so 3 mindful mouthfuls. That's your top tips.
That's my top tip.
Do you have anything else to throw at our listeners?
Well, while we're talking about water as well, keeping hydrated is really important, and it's something that most people could actually look at. We lose on, I know nobody is the average person, we're all very different, but the average person loses about 4 litres of water a day, mostly through talking and breathing. And we get a lot of that back through diet, as long as we make sure that our diet's really hydrating. So if you're just having things like toast and crisp and crackers during the day, then that's not going to bring much of that hydration in. So it's having an awareness that your food is hydrating. So things like salads and fruits and vegetables and soups and broths and really hydrating food. And then on top of that, you'll need plain water as well. If you don't like water, then or you find it difficult to drink, actually it's amazing how much a decent filter can change that and make water a lot easier to drink. Or try adding something like some slices of cucumber to it. Maybe be aware that most teas and coffee as well, but even a lot of herbal teas are diuretics. So whilst they'll be hydrating you, with one hand, with the other they'll be making you pee more. So, so you can't just necessarily rely on just herbal teas, for example. And also you don't want to be drinking too much water, especially not all in one go, because that can put a huge strain on your kidneys. So getting water intake right, but for most people that will be a nice hydrating diet, about maybe 1.5 litres to 2.5 litres of water a day, as much of that plain water as possible. That's going to be really great. The next thing about hydration though is making sure that that water is able to do its job. So water is there to help to keep us kind of plumped up, a bit like plants. You know, when you don't water them, they wilt. It's the same with us. But also a huge thing is about the flow. So as water flows around the body, it takes nutrients to where they need to go, hormones, it takes toxins, carries toxins through the blood and lymph to the liver and then out of the body. So this flow, continual flow around the body is super important. And the thing that will restrict flow around, or one of the main things that restricts flow around the body, is stress. Because, so we're coming back to stress again. With stress, we freeze, we get really tense, and that restricts the flow of water. So we can be drinking plenty of water every day, but be functionally dehydrated. So we need to make sure that we're working on those stress levels as well, to make sure that that water is able to flow and everything's fluid. So yes, that's my second top tip.
Brilliant, thank you. And how would somebody know what the right level of water is for them?
Yeah, well, you can't really say for you it's going to be 1.362 litres a day, and it's really difficult because it's going to change from day to day, depending on the humidity in the air, how active we are, how stressed we are. Stress makes us wee more as well. It's also going to vary with what metabolic processes our bodies are carrying out that particular day, how much detoxification we need to do. There are so many factors, and of course, you know, women as well, during menstrual cycles, hydration requirements change massively throughout the month, and in pregnancy as well. So it's hugely variable. So again, it's about really, as with a lot of things in nutrition, it's about feeling our way through this. And we can't feel our way through this unless we're listening to our bodies and we're doing as much as we can to keep coming back to that centered place. So all of these tips really help each other out. The mindful the 3 mindful mouthfuls, the hydration, the being centered, the feeling your way through it. It all really comes back to that again and again.
Excellent. And a simple thing is just look at the colour of your pee, isn't it? Just looking at and regulating it as you, well, not regulating, but observing as you go out through your day. So when it starts in the morning, it's a stronger colour, and then it gradually gets lighter to be light straw. So light straw is a good colour, I believe.
Very good colour, yes. Obviously, if it's fluorescent yellow, it means you've been taking B vitamins and there's nothing to worry about. And also people often say, oh, you know, if my wee is bright yellow with B vitamins, does that mean I'm not absorbing them? No, it means you have absorbed them, and it means that your kidneys are very precisely keeping hold of which ones you need and filtering out the ones that you don't need.
So bright yellow pee is a good sign, but only if you're taking B vitamins.
Yes, yeah.
And then in order to know whether you need B vitamins, people need to talk to people like you to establish, because if you're having supplements that are inappropriate for your body, then you could be doing more harm than you think you're helping.
Yeah, which brings us back to this thing about, should you be doing everything and throwing everything at your health, or just gently piecing your way through it? So yes, if you're taking all the supplements all of the time, that can be too much of a stress for your body. And I sometimes have people come to see me, especially if they've been diagnosed with a chronic health condition, and they may be taking 40 or 50 different supplements. So the first thing I do is whittle it right down. So yes, it's good to get advice from somebody who can tailor your plan to you.
Excellent. And because I don't have the deep in-depth training of the many years that you've had, I've come into this in the last, I don't know what, 5 to 10 years. I now offer a variety of different tests. So I find that people, when they have the tests, which I believe Dr. Andre offers, and various testing and whatnot, when people actually see what's in their body, what's in their blood, that's a big wake-up call, isn't it? Because it's not some remote person saying, oh, we'll try this, or I think you should do that. There's actual evidence, and it's their body. And as you mentioned several times, everybody is different. Every person, everybody is different. So it's, what does your body need? We'll find out. And that's through the consultations with you and with Dr. Andre, and then Maria sews it all together and helps people keep sane and on focus.
Yeah, and as you say, it's so important to put all of this information together into one big jigsaw. If you were just looking at one of those elements individually, it might take you some of the way, but it's going to have big gaps in it. So testing's a really good example of that. Anybody could get some kind of a test, but unless you're putting it into the context of everything else that's going on, it can be a bit of a red herring sometimes. So it needs people who can then take that information and say, well, okay, this information in the context of your case history and everything else that we know that's going on, we can interpret it this way. And yeah, so that's really important to do. So as I'm sure you're aware, testing, testing can be expensive, so I don't insist on it, but where people can get testing, it can be really excellent to add a lot of that information into the jigsaw puzzle. But sometimes it can be a bit misleading as well. So for example, copper levels is a classic one that I like to talk about. So somebody might show that they've got low copper levels in their blood, but actually they might have really high copper levels in their tissue, and the blood test won't show that. It won't show that that copper is being dumped into the tissue. A blood test might show that calcium levels are really good, where that's one of the blood's main jobs is keeping calcium levels stable in the blood. So it might not show you that the body is keeping the blood calcium levels really stable by taking loads of calcium out of the bones. So it's a piece of the jigsaw puzzle rather than the whole picture. So rather than just getting blood tests and being kind of getting distracted by the red herrings in those, actually taking them to somebody with some training like you, Elaine, or me, who can then put that into context and actually interpret that information well, is really invaluable.
It really is. I had my first, I offer hair tissue mineral analysis and dry blood analysis and a metabolic analysis and a behavioural profile. So so that's my kind of 4 things I put together. So I can see the behaviour, and I then know how I'm going to be able to help somebody, because my style isn't for everybody. I'm very straightforward, direct, and that's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And when people see their own behavioural profile and they can see how their behaviour actually is getting in their own way. So again, everything I do has evidence behind it, and it's evidence that they've given, they've input into some kind of, whether it's a blood analysis or some of their hair or whatever it is, it's their stuff. And what I'm doing is joining the pieces together, like you say, and in isolation. And a lot of people don't realise about the minerals. It's the ratio that's important, isn't it? So you may have high calcium, but if you've got high something else, and magnesium and potassium and all these other things, it's the ratios that are really important, isn't it?
Yeah. So looking at everything together rather than individual things in isolation.
I had my first hair tissue mineral analysis when I was when I just woken up about my kidney condition, because I was told by highly street consultants who I saw every 6 months oh yes, carry on taking the antibiotics, yes, yeah, carry on. And every now and then we would change, or they would change them. I got to the point of being on a 3-week rotating cycle for many years.
Wow.
I would take one for brand for a week, and then another for a week, and then another, and then I'd go back to week 1, and this just went on and on. Of course, so no surprise, I ended up with candida and all sorts of gut issues, plus I'm a type A blood type, which is prone to gut issues anyway. So and then no surprise later when cancer popped up, with lots of added stress to make it. So it's a whole, like you said, it's a soup, isn't it? And we need to know what the ingredients are of our own soup, so that we can make it a nice comforting, warm, cuddly soup, rather than, you know, something that's going to taste revolting and do us harm.
Yeah, exactly that.
So it's been lovely speaking with you, Kirsten, and as I say, fantastic to meet you at long last. And remind listeners of the name of your book and also your website, how they can contact you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so the book is Nutrition Brought to Life. That's by me, Kirsten Chick. My website is connect with nutrition.co.uk. I'm on social media as well, so Instagram, Connect with Nutrition. I'm on Twitter as Kirsten Chick #1. I'm on Facebook. I have a group called Connect with Nutrition as well, and that's really lovely. It's a bit of a forum, so people chat and ask questions. And then I also have a Facebook page called Kirsten Chick, where I put up my events. So I run online workshops at the moment, and courses, so they're all up there. But everything should be at my website, which is connectwithnutrition.co.uk, and you can find out there how to have consultations, and etc. and so on. So that's me. Thanks very much for today, Elaine. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really nice.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time, Kirsten, and I look forward to reading your book.
Brilliant.